Hi, hello, good morning and welcome to a super casual chat to get ready with me because I feel like I haven't filmed a video in like 150 years. It's been quite a while, I'm really out of practice, and let me tell you, October's been a really weird month, not in a good way. But I don't want to bum anyone out, I don't want to, be negative here because there's really no need for it, not today. So I figured we can just casually chat about a bunch of things, including some of the new makeup that I have bought. And I haven't, okay, this is maybe a bit of an over-exaggeration. Really, the only new thing that I have bought that we're going to talk about and use today is this new trio from Bobbi Brown. This is in the shade Smoky Plum, and by new I mean new to me and not new to the market, just FYI. But let me start applying makeup and then we can briefly chat about some other makeup purchases that I made. I'm going to take my Inglot eyeshadow base as usual. So let's start from the beginning. I last filmed a video about 2 weeks ago, more than 2 weeks ago, when we talked about the new Louis Vuitton lipstick that I had picked up, or one of their refills in the shade Sable Roses. That was the last video that I filmed, and after that I just wasn't really feeling like it, mostly because I was just really busy at work, to be honest with you, plus, other things, life, whatever. Anyway, in between then and now, I managed to visit our designer outlet. There is a designer outlet in the southern part of the country here, and I think I've mentioned that briefly before, but there is a store there which is called, why can I never remember the name of that freaking store? It's a franchise that also exists in North America. I want to say the Cosmetic Factory store, but I don't think that's true. I think it's something under the belt of Estee Lauder brands. Let me make you a deal. If I remember what the store is called, I'm going to leave the name in the description box below, and if I don't, too bad, too sad. But we have one of those here in the designer outlet, and from what I can tell, I'm shaking my foundation in case you were wondering what the hell is going on. I'm going to take the Estee Lauder Double Wear in the shade 2N1. I really don't like to have to pour the foundation, especially once it's like down to somewhere here. So now I've decided that I'm just going to use my spatula thing in order to scoop it out and apply it in that way. So I first scoop it out and apply it on the back of my hand, and from there onwards I apply it to my face. Anyway, just in case you were wondering why I have a spatula in my hand and why I'm smearing foundation with a spatula on my face, that's the reason. Usually I pour it out, but once it reaches the lower portion of the bottle, it's just very difficult to get it out and to control the product levels that you get out. Oh, and now you're leaving. Sorry, I was distracted because Lisa decided to get out of the bed and leave the room, so I can finally make the rest of the bed. You see now the part of the bed that is made specifically for you, by the way. But now that she has left, I can make the whole bed. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the designer outlet and the store that I'm referring to. Oh yeah, I was talking about how this specific cosmetic discount store also exists in other countries. For sure it exists in the US, because some of you have previously mentioned that you have purchased products from Tom Ford and Bobbi Brown there as well. And the thing is, I think you guys are getting much better deals than we are, because the store that is in the Netherlands, so in that designer outlet, they have maybe about 20% off of the price, but really not much more than that. So it's never really a great steal, it's just better than buying it in store. It would appear that I can comfortably go back to my 2N1 foundation shade, because I think this color now fits me pretty well. I mean, if you have another opinion on that, please share that with me, but I feel like I don't really have to mix the foundation anymore. Anyway, the whole reason I visit this outlet fairly frequently is because my parents-in-law live in the vicinity, so when we go visit them or they have Nikola for the weekend and we go pick him up, we usually pass by that outlet, and I hop off the car to spend a few hours there, and then my husband picks me up. That's the whole reason why I'm there so often. Not because I, love going there so much. I mean, I enjoy going there, but it's not something that I would specifically plan time for if it weren't for the fact that it's just kind of on the way. Anyway, I don't know why I'm rambling so much. See, I haven't filmed in 2 weeks and here we are and I'm rambling. Anyway, so I went to the store again, and I had mentioned over the summer that I went there and I sort of fell in love with the shade Everyday Grace. So this is the first trio that I purchased, and more specifically I purchased it because I absolutely fell in love with this shade here, which is like a taupe brown with like slightly plummy lilac-y undertones to it, but it's really just very cool, a very cool tone shade, something that is very hard to find, and especially in this beautiful shiny formula. I have to say the mattes are also impressively good, but I would rather have more of these metallic shades. There is actually a trio that has 2 of these metallic shades, and I briefly considered buying that just because it has 2 of these shades, but they were just not eyeshadows that I particularly need in my collection. For my concealer today, I'm going to take the Chanel Sublimage concealer, which I've used quite a bit lately actually. And I'm going to again scoop it out with my little spatula because that's nice and, you know, hygienic. Not that I don't go in with my fingers as well, I do. So I bought Everyday Grace over the summer, I fell in love with it, and at the time when I was choosing a trio to purchase, the other trio that really caught my eye was this shade, the shade Smoky Plum, because the metallic shade in here looked like the most beautiful cool toned taupe plum, and again a really unique undertone of eyeshadow, one that I couldn't really come up with dupes in my collection for. I could think of similar shades from Pat McGrath, but Pat's shades are much more mauve, there's much more purple in them. There's purple in this eyeshadow that we're going to use today, but it's a very subtle hint of purple, and I really love that about this shade. It's essentially a cool toned neutral with a slightly plummy undertone, and I love it. So these things cost 60 euros original full price. I think they're ridiculously expensive and overpriced. I don't think they should cost more than 35 euros basic price, but unfortunately here we are. They cost 60 euros in the Netherlands, and even with the outlet price I only got a discount down to 40 euros. So they're not cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but there's just such good quality and I've enjoyed them so much, and I had continued thinking about the shade Smoky Plum long after I had left the outlet the first time, and usually when something nestles like this in my brain, I know that sooner or later it will be mine. I am going to set the foundation with my Prada Reset Rebalancing Powder, and yes, in the meantime, since we haven't seen each other in 2 weeks, I managed to put quite a significant dent in my powder, and I'm really glad that I have a backup of it now, because I think now that I've hit pan, the powder is going to finish relatively quickly. So I am actually kind of glad that I got a backup of it. When I did the whole switcheroo with one of the quads, I think I purchased the quad in a refill. I regretted my choice. I'm just giving you the summary of the whole situation. I purchased a refill. I regretted my choice because the product quad refills are not packaged very securely, and you can't really buy the individual case, like just the outside component. However, the powder and the eyeshadow quads are interchangeable because they're the same format in terms of size. So I decided to purchase an additional powder, pop out the refill, put it in here, and then just save my refill for the powder for when I pan the powder, which by the looks of it is going to be fairly soon. I'm going to push the powder a little bit with my sponge here. I really like doing this because I think it really works the powder together with the foundation really well to set them. The other new makeup product that I have purchased was just yesterday, and I had been waiting first of all for that product to be released in the Netherlands, and second of all to be discounted because I wasn't going to buy it full price. And the product that I'm referring to is something that I think maybe I had mentioned in a video, or maybe I hallucinate that I have mentioned it and I haven't actually. Oh yeah, I have mentioned it under other people's videos, not actually to you. There were 2 holiday collection releases that really struck my interest, and those were the Chanel Nuit Astral quad and the Tom Ford Daydream quad. However, because the two have a very similar vibe, like cooler tones, blues, purples, I decided that it would be unwise to buy both and I really have to choose one of them. And ultimately I decided to go for Chanel Nuit Astral because it struck me as the more unique color story and one that looks very interesting. The eyeshadows look very sparkly and I'm curious to try that formula in like a more sparkly finish. I recently talked about another Chanel quad, the Boutons something with couture in the name, the one that has 4 browns in it, well, 3 browns and a beige, and that's in their hard gelée formula, and that was my first try of their hard gelée formula. But the couture quad has texture that is very much satin to slightly metallic. There's no really sparkly shades in there. And the Nuit Astral quad actually looks like there are quite a few sparkly shades. So I'm very intrigued to try that formula in a sparkly finish. And I didn't tell you, but I used my Too Faced Laminating Brow Wax to do my brows, as per usual. Smoky Plum is rather cool toned, and like I said, it has a bit of like a plummy undertone to it. And I figured this bronzer from Pat McGrath might be a really good match for it. So this is the shade Mahogany. Bronze Mahogany. This is the shade Bronze Mahogany from Pat McGrath Labs. A very dark shade for someone of my skin tone. However, the undertone of the bronzer is just absolutely beautiful. It's quite neutral, it's a bit plummy, and it's just such a nice shade for me. And I love how these powders can really stretch from someone who has a lighter tone to someone who has a deeper skin tone, and I can definitely make this bronzer work for me. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to apply a little bit on my brush, and then I'm going to smoosh my brush on a microfiber cloth just to get rid of the excess. And then I'm going to apply it, or I'm going to start building it very gently onto my skin, because I don't want to apply a chunk of color, because of course it's a very deep shade for me. Anyway, so I purchased Nuit Astral because I thought it was the more unique color story out of the two, and because I think I'm going to enjoy it more. I think I'm very curious about that finish. So overall, it was the more interesting one. Something that I found quite interesting, Nuit Astral is also a limited edition Chanel quad, and it also has like beautiful embossing on it. But for whatever reason, it's not 20 euros more expensive, or like almost 20 euros more expensive than their other quads. So the Couture, the Boutons collection, the one that I mentioned previously with the brown shades, that came from a collection that was limited edition, and it cost 84 euros a pop. So even with a 20% discount, it was really not that cheap. However, the Nuit Astral, at least here in the Netherlands, was priced at 60 something euros. And I was able to get it 25% off, because I never buy these things full price. I always buy them on sale from some of the local retailers. So I bought it for 50 bucks. For my blush, I'm actually going to go into Starstruck Splendor, a holiday collection palette from a few years ago, because I want to use this blush here. This is the shade Nymphet, which again has like a little bit of a mauvey undertone to it, with a bit of a gold pearl. I really like this blush. Nuit Astral is probably going to arrive sometime this week. However, I don't foresee that we will see each other again this week, because my parents are coming on Thursday. They are arriving on Thursday because tomorrow is my son's birthday. Nikola is turning 7. For those of you who have followed my channel a little bit longer, and you know that I have a son whose name is Nikola. He's turning 7 tomorrow, and his grandparents are coming so that we can celebrate with the whole family. So I don't foresee that I'll have much time the rest of the week to film, but I will probably try the quad if I have the opportunity, and then when I come back I can just give you a bit more of a full rounded review instead of just first impressions, because the way I see this quad, it looks to me like a lot of one and done moments, or like combinations of 2, tops 3 shades. It's not something that I necessarily feel like I want to use all the shades at the same time. On a different note, again, you have followed my channel for a little bit, you will know that about a month ago I mentioned that I was having really a lot of issues with my right shoulder being very painful, and I had started seeing a chiropractor. And I'm happy to report that whatever the chiropractor, well, I know what he was doing. He did quite a few sessions of dry needling, which is like acupuncture needle, which goes to all the way to the muscle, and then he causes like this little like twitch, which he calls a trigger point, and that somehow releases the tension in that muscle. So he's done quite a few sessions with me with dry needling and some like massage and stretching exercises. And I'm happy to say that my shoulder is like 90% better, maybe even 95%. Sticking with the cooler toned theme, I'm going to grab this highlighter. This is an old holiday collection highlighter from Pat McGrath Labs in the shade Lunar Nude, which is a beautiful cooler toned, like mauvey, purpley champagne. And I think it will fit the vibe of this look very, very nicely, and it's in her Heart Jade formula. I really like the highlighter she used to release for the holidays in this formula. She doesn't do that anymore, unfortunately, or she didn't with this holiday collection. I'm going to set all the powders on my face with a little bit of the Airbrush Flawless Setting Powder from Charlotte Tilbury. I stopped seeing the chiropractor on a weekly basis. Now we're going to see each other only every 6 weeks for some maintenance work, because like I said, I feel about 95% better, which is fantastic. And to continue feeling better, I've actually decided that I really need to start working out. I'm not a very sporty person. I'm not someone who is out of themselves really drawn to being sporty and active. I really need to force myself to do it. And I'm not necessarily very like sedentary in my lifestyle because I cycle to work, so I cycle every day about 6 kilometers back and forth. So 3.5 kilometers one direction, 3.5 kilometers in the other direction. Sometimes if I'm going other places a little bit more. So in total I bike between 30 and 40 kilometers a week, which I think is pretty good. And I'm very active at work. I walk around a lot, I take the stairs. So it's not like I don't move at all, but like from the waist down, from the waist up, I do absolutely nothing. So I don't have a single muscle left, I think, in my upper body, or whatever muscle has been left is, you know, from all the old glory when I used to exercise when I was younger. And again, not that I ever exercised out of myself. I've never been someone who goes to the gym. I've never been someone who enjoys that kind of exercise, although during high school I had like a little routine that I would do for an hour before I went to bed, listening to the Backstreet Boys and like doing sit-ups and all sorts of other stretching exercises. It's past Mariam from that time that I need to thank for still having some like core body strength. And then for quite a few years I did Aikido, which is a Japanese martial art, and I really loved that. Like doing sports in that context was something I greatly enjoyed. Unfortunately, I came here to the Netherlands 20 years ago, and then I stopped, and then I restarted it, but it was with a different teacher. I felt like I was not really making any progress, and I'm someone who is very motivated by progress. If I don't make progress, or I see the possibility for progress on the short term, I'm likely to sort of like give up and refocus my attention on something where I know that I can make a bit more progress. So that's the reason I kind of like stopped going to Aikido quite some years ago now. But you know what, let's swatch a little bit of eyeshadows because I actually need to do the rest of my face and I need to go to work. So let me first give you a quick swatch of Smoky Plum. I'm going to swatch the two mattes and the metallic shade. And this is how they look like on my fingers. It's a very interesting color story, and one that I find almost slightly confusing because the lighter matte is very cool toned and gray. The deeper matte is actually almost too warm toned for my taste, and then the metallic shade, like I said, is still rather cool toned. It's this beautiful, like slightly plummy taupe. I think something like, imagine Bronze Mahogany, the bronzer that I put from Pat McGrath Labs, but in an eyeshadow, something like a plummy brown, I think would have been absolutely perfect with this trio. I've used this before, and it's not that it doesn't work, and it's not that this shadow is too warm toned, but I feel like if it was like a plummy brown, it would have been perfection with this trio. The mattes in here, by the way, are also exceptional. Like, I find these little trios truly exceptional quality, and they're also very compact. So if you want something compact with really good quality and like punchy metallic eyeshadows, I highly recommend to at least go and swatch these. Now I want to swatch Everyday Grace as a comparison for you because I think that would be interesting. So this is the first trio that I purchased, and you can see that there are some similarities, which is why I'm going to actually swatch the taupe, like the mid-tone brown from Everyday Grace here. Then I'm going to swatch the lightest shade, and this is the metallic, just so you can see the difference. So the one thing that I don't like about Everyday Grace is the fact that this vanilla shade here is such a waste of space, because I only really use it as a brow bone highlight, which is a bit of a shame. I would rather have had it like a deeper matte there. The brown here that they have, like the mid-tone brown, is cool toned, but it's much more beige. You can see by comparison the one from the Smoky Plum palette is much more gray toned. And then finally we have the shade, the metallic shade here from Everyday Grace versus the plummy taupe from Smoky Plum. And you can see they're rather similar in the sense that they're both rather cool toned and have like a bit of a mauve undertone to them, but the Smoky Plum shade is definitely more mauve and more purple, whereas this one is really more of like a taupey silver. They're both really, really pretty. Unfortunately, I can't really offer you dupes for the two metallic shades from these trios. I think that's one of the reasons I love them so much, because they're so unique. I'm going to zoom you in now, and we're going to do a quick look with the Smoky Plum trio. I'm first going to grab this cooler toned gray taupe, let's call it that, and I'm going to put that through my crease and a bit in the outer portion of the eye, but really mostly through my crease to sort of create a bit of shading there. So yes, I wanted to start exercising just so I can have a bit more like upper body strength and hopefully prevent the shoulder pain from coming back, because I think the shoulder pain was really caused by overuse at work. But I do think part of the reason that I'm having issues with that is because I just don't really exercise the upper part of my body. And I've considered like going to the gym, maybe starting off with a personal trainer. That's what some of my friends have done and have recommended doing if you don't really know where to start. But I also don't really want to commit because I have very limited time in the day and like really specific days and time frames when I can go to the gym. So I'm not really sure that that's something that's feasible with my lifestyle. And I don't want to like give up any of the other things that I do. And I figured the best thing to do in that case is perhaps start at home, because there are so many things you can find on YouTube in order to get you started. And actually yesterday, with the help of my husband, I did exactly that. I asked him if he knows of like a really good workout routine on YouTube, and he recommended this guy who has the Insanity workout routine. So those are like 30-minute like really intense routines. So he said maybe just get started off with something like this and see where it goes, and I thought that was a really good suggestion. So yesterday he did the first Insanity workout together with me. I'm now actually going to just grab the vanilla shade from Everyday Grace, because it's right there, to highlight here my brow bone area a little bit. Oh, maybe that was a little bit too much. This shade is like quite intense actually. And the Insanity workout was really fun, and it really gets you going. The only thing is that it was a little bit too much jumping for my taste. I really wanted to alternate between the jumping portion and maybe like a little bit of floor work with like sit-ups and some stretching exercises to really like strengthen also the core. So I've decided that I'm going to, because he also has workout routines for abs, I'm going to alternate between the jumping and the abs routine. And then when I feel a little bit more confident, maybe I'm going to ask one of my friends to show me around the gym, or I will finally go to a personal trainer. I haven't quite decided yet. I am looking for a somewhat smaller brush because I would like to... Oh, you know what? I'm going to first apply a little bit of this shade on my lower lashes quite diffusely. The one that we have through the crease. And then using this same brush, I'm going to go into this brown shade. And that's going to, of course, be used here in my lash line to create a little bit more definition in the lashes. I think it's actually a shade that very nicely fits my sweater, so I don't really mind it all that much, but I keep fantasizing about a plummy brown. And I think my lighting went to shit, so I'm going to turn on my ring light here. I'm just going to give that a little blend. So yes, we did the workout, and of course I knew that today most of my muscles are going to hurt, and indeed my legs feel pretty much like spaghetti today, but I know that it will get better. I've been there before, I know how it goes, but I really want to build up a little bit the habit and the routine, and I know that once I have the habit of doing it, I will really miss not doing it. So I really want to get to the point where I really have the urgency and the need to exercise at least once a week. I'm going to take a little bit of this brown shade now, just the tiniest bit, to run it here on the outside portion of the lower lashes. I'm going to thicken the portion that's here in the outer corner of the eye. The mattes in these trios are also exceptional. They're very blendable, they're very soft. These are definitely like more powdery mattes. They're not the types of mattes. Think of something like the Queens from Pat McGrath Labs or the Lancome Hypnose eyeshadows, where the mattes are much more like a cream to powder formula and they have that like latexy feel to them. These are not like that. These are more powdery than that, but I don't mind that because they blend out really beautifully. Anyhow, now I'm going to apply a little bit of glitter glue. I'm going to take my NYX glitter glue and I'm going to pop that all over my lid and inner corner. So those are pretty much all the newness things going on here. Not much. How have you been? What have you purchased recently? I know that the Lightworks 7 from Danessa Myricks was a big release, but again, I don't want to buy one of those huge ass palettes. If she was selling these palettes also in like 6 pans, I would probably have purchased one to try because I'm really curious, but I can't be bothered to purchase one of those huge ass palettes and basically never use most of it. I'm going to take the shadow, the metallic eyeshadow, just using my fingers because I really feel like these apply best when you use fingers. They're quite intense and dense metallics, so I don't think they're going to be everyone's taste, but I do think they can be sheared out. I find them really flattering on the lid, and I just think they're so pretty. I am in love with that. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? Just so pretty. They would probably apply well with a brush too, but I just really like to apply these sort of eyeshadows with my fingers because I feel like then I really have the best control over distributing the flakes best. Because as you can see, it is quite a densely packed eyeshadow. It has a little bit of a flaky texture to it, and I feel these benefit a lot from being applied with the fingers because they warm up and you can really work those flakes onto your skin. I'm going to just do a little bit of a blend here through the crease so everything is seamless. I'm going to clean off the brush on which I had the deeper shade just now, and I'm going to grab a little bit of this plummy shade also to apply in my inner corners. We could also have done something fun and applied like a inner corner pop of something. Now I'm thinking whether this is maybe not a little bit too dark. You know what? I think this may be a little too dark. So I am going to grab my Pat McGrath highlighter that we used on the cheekbones. Or you know what? Something that's even closer to me is one of those old highlighters from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I think this one is from the Dream Glow kit. It's housed in something completely different. This is an old bronzer blush highlighter palette from the Gwen Stefani Urban Decay collaboration from 10 years ago, where I now have depotted some older highlighters from ABH. And I'm going to put this one, which I'm pretty sure comes from the Dream Glow kit, here in the inner corners because I think it fits. I should not have put the smoky purple shade in the inner corners because it really made everything quite dark, but you know, choices were made, mistakes were made, what can you do? Let me give you a little glimpse at how sparkly these eyeshadows are under artificial lighting. The metallic eyeshadows from these trios, I mean. One of the few upsides of the grey and rainy weather that we are currently having in the Netherlands is that I can finally bust out all of my cool toned browns. So no better day than today to wear Ray, which is one of the Rouge Experience lipsticks that was released in the summer of 2025. I mean, looking at this color, you don't really think summer, right? You think fall and winter, which is why I haven't really worn this lipstick much in the past couple of months, but finally, since the last couple of weeks have gotten really autumnal here, I can finally wear this shade, and I think it works really well with the eyeshadow because it has a little bit of that plummy undertone to it, but it's still really cool toned. So I'm going for a full-on brown theme. Like even my nails are brown, shades of brown. So I really enjoy how this look turned out. I really like these little trios from Bobbi Brown. I can't recommend them enough. I mean, definitely go and give them a swatch in store if you can. But these two in particular, Smoky Plum and Everyday Grace, I think are exceptional. Oh, and before I forget, because I was definitely going to mention it and then it just floated out of my head, let me quickly mention that I'm wearing the Burnt Umber mascara from Lisa Eldridge on my lashes, because I think the contrast of like the warm toned brown from the Burnt Umber with the cooler tones of the eyeshadow work so beautifully together. Anyway, you probably noticed it, but just in case you were wondering which mascara I used, it was Burnt Umber from Lisa Eldridge. Let me know how you have been. I hope you enjoyed this low-key, chatty get ready with me just to catch up. Again, I can't really promise you that we're going to see each other again this week. If I have the time, I will film another video on Wednesday. Maybe we can complete our 3 looks with the Petal Morphosis palette, but if not, we're going to see each other again next week. I just wanted to pop in and say hi in case you were wondering where I've disappeared. Everything is fine, it's just that October was a bit of a weird month and I honestly didn't really feel so much like filming. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this look and we will hopefully see each other again very soon. Bye!